The longest running saga in the history of athletics in terms of field events. The 8 meters and 90 that Bob Beamon jumped in Mexico City in 1968.
A motto is a phrase chosen to encapsulate the beliefs or ideals of an institution. World Athletics have chosen SUGOI for their latest edition of the World Championships. In English, it means amazing or extraordinary, to do something exceptional, astonishing or remarkable. In the past, the talents on show have been described as a wonder, sensations and phenomenal. That isn't overstating it either. For millennia we've watched in awe, fascinated by the contradiction between its simplicity and its complexity. It's only running, jumping and throwing. But it's also a glimpse into the art of the possible, a sport that tests the limits of our most fundamental capabilities. It challenges the body, the mind and the soul. It's always fascinated us, and it always will. It's the origin of all sport. Can you believe everything that you see? Well, sometimes it's scarcely believable even without the subterfuge, misdirection and posturing. Maybe that's all part of it though. You have to see it to believe it, and even then, you can't be sure. Maybe then the trick is to not overthink it. Just sit back and gaze in astonishment at the speed, the power and the agility, and just let yourself believe it's real, at least until you know it's not. Athletics is controversial. It does make you skeptical. It could make you cynical. But it's gripping, and it's engaging, and when it's on its best behaviour, there's nothing else like it. It will make you dream, feel things, and inspire you. So if for no other reason, we should give it a chance. The World Athletics Championships are starting, and this is the Sporting Almanac Podcast.
Beamon's figures have disappeared off the record books forever.
Awesome. Athletics, baby.
Athletics, baby.
How are you?
Yeah.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah. Hi, mate. I'm good. How are you? How has your football season kicked off? I should probably say quickly, whilst you're beforehand, anyone who's now tuning in to listen to these episodes is probably going to get a weekly update on the Wigginton team's results.
Not a great start to the season today, result-wise, but a good performance. So something to build on for next week. That's my short summary. However, more important football news is the Women's FA Cup qualifying round started today, which is great news for teams that I think level 6 in the Women's League and above come in at that point. And one of those teams, having been promoted last season, is the Wigginton Grasshoppers ladies team. So there was a proper FA Cup game held at Wigginton Grasshoppers today. And the great thing, obviously, we talked about this in episode 7, the great thing about the FA Cup is before that game starts, everyone's got a dream. Both teams have a dream. They could get to Wembley. I think they're only 9 wins away from Wembley. So the dream is there. And obviously it has to end for one team. And unfortunately today, that team was Concert. So Wigginton Grasshoppers, the dream continues. 3-0 win into the second qualifying round.
Oh, nice.
8 wins from Wembley.
How
Maybe
many
9 wins from Wembley? But
how many wins from the first round proper?
I think 2 more.
Ooh.
I might be making that up completely, but you never know.
Yeah, you never know. Doable. Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that.
It's brilliant and really well done to the ladies, but I think the club is secretly hoping for an away game next time because the FA have a lot of regulations around hosting games, so
get some cash
an
as
away
well.
game might be nice.
Get some cash if you get drawn against someone half decent as well.
Indeed. Anyway, so yeah, football.
That is very cool. That's a lovely way to start the episode.
I'm delighted.
You know, without bringing the tone down too much, the only other major sporting news recently is lots of people getting banned for spitting at people. So your news was
this is true.
far more fun.
Yeah, spitting at people 1.5 yards away from the referee and thinking they'll get away with it.
Yeah, exactly. And Luis Suarez just being Luis Suarez as well and getting himself a 6-game ban to go with his biting charges and his racism.
Yeah, I actually forgot about that. I forgot that was what you were also referring to.
Yeah, you were talking about Jalen Carter spitting in Dak Prescott's face
in the NFL, yeah,
right in front of an official who had got, as you quite rightly text me, had already removed the flag by the time Jalen Carter had managed to even turn to face him.
Yeah,
he was getting ejected very quickly. But yes, we're not here to talk about spitting at people. We are here to talk about the romantic elements of sport, which you've already touched on, but we are going to focus for the first time on athletics.
Yes, yeah, the World Athletics Championship starting end of this week.
Yeah, 13th.
This weekend. Yeah,
13th to the 21st of September. So Saturday for a week, plus 1 day. Japan National Stadium, Tokyo.
Yeah,
should be fun.
Second time it's been hosted in Tokyo, I believe.
It is.
Yeah, after 1991.
Indeed.
Which there may be a mention of.
There will be a mention of that. Yeah, alongside the Olympic Games, it is the highest level of senior international athletics, basically. Track and field, your classic, your staple sporting diet. So yeah, it should be really fun. Every single event under the sun, men and women's. Yeah, over the course of effectively 8 days.
Yeah, they really pack it in, and obviously you've got your primo events like your men's 100-metre final, women's 100-metre final, which always get the crowd. But I love personally, I'm a big fan of the field events, especially the jumping events. I love the long jump and I love the triple jump, just because it's the and the high jump as well, and the pole vault, because it's the knowing that you have a target and you have one jump to try and beat it aspect of it, which I find very exciting. And it's a very contained moment. And it leads to either sort of this peak of joy or peak of disappointment immediately afterwards. And you're not competing against each other in that exact moment. You just have a target, and then it's all in your own head.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I was about to say the throwing and the jumping events are very different to the running events in that sense, and I completely agree with you. I like that dynamic in that there is. It could be said that in running events you are also just trying to run as fast as you can, but the reality is there are tactics to the running event. Like, you can influence the way in which your opponents run their races by going out hard or trying to manufacture a sprint finish, or less so the shorter the distance, like the 100 meters is just literally sprint to the line. But generally speaking, there is a tactic to the success that you can achieve, whereas in the jumping and the throwing events, it is literally you versus yourself, and if that happens to be further than everybody else, higher than everybody else, then you'll come out on top. But you don't get to influence other people's jumps or throws in the way that you can influence someone's running race, which does add a layer of intrigue and suspense, I think.
It's a good variety. It's the important thing. And yeah, so I've got a bit of the history of where it came from, and I know you've got a bit of the history of the best moments within the World Championship history. So
I just want to wax lyrical about some unreal things. But yeah, let's build our way into it. Like, we might as well explain, like we often do, where these things have come from, because that sets the tone and the context for what comes after.
Yeah, so I mean, I can take it from here. So I read a really good paper actually on the history of the IAAF, which is by Dr. Hans Bolling. So if you Google him, his paper will come up, and I do recommend it. Actually, it's an interesting background. It's how it started in relation to other sports, and it goes into details about how other sports started as well, and all of it is getting so very familiar the more and more we talk about it, and the history of how sports start and where they start, and obviously with athletics. Obviously, we're talking about modern similarities. Historically, athletics goes back way, 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 way back. We're talking 3,000 years, the ancient Greeks, the original ancient Olympic Games, races on foot, feats of jumping, throwing, strength, dexterity. A little bit different from today, but very historical.
I was going to say, we did promise everybody that we wouldn't take it back to ancient Greece on the
That's my only mention, I swear.
On the last episode, so we're not going to do...
And moving swiftly on from there.
We're not going to do 3 millennia of athletics history. So yes.
Okay, clearly, those kind of races have existed in the meantime as well. It's the simplest sport in the world to get 2 people to race against each other, and the winner gets some money and the loser gets his head cut off, or whatever the rules of the competition are. Modern organised athletics, like so many other sports before it, so many other sports we've talked about, was popularised in the mid-19th century in Great Britain, mostly through the public schools and later through private clubs founded by ex-public schoolboys. Does that sound familiar, Ben?
It sounds very, very familiar. It is essentially the origin story of every sport.
And similar to is the issue they encountered with standardisation of the rules and procedures and the creations of competitions. Does that also sound familiar, Ben?
That sounds quite familiar, yeah.
So guess what happened? An organisation was founded. In this case, the Amateur Athletic Association of England, known as the Three A's, founded in 1880. And despite its name, and we've mentioned before how the interchangeability of England and Britain is quite common, oversaw athletics in all of Britain and Ireland until Irish independence. It was founded, as so many organisations were at the time, to standardise the rules, provide competition, and it did that in the form of the AAA Championships, which were held annually, aside from World War years, and from 1880 until 2006.
Oh, really? Jeez.
Yeah, that long. Yeah, it was only replaced by, I think it was England Athletics and representative athletics from the different, all under, is it UK Athletics now? So obviously Scotland Athletics, so on, all under UK Athletics. Yeah, until 2006. That served as trials for like the Olympics and later the World Championships as well. So the International Olympic Committee was founded in 1894 to revive the Olympics. I'm not going to get into too many details on that because I'm fairly sure there'll be future episodes where we go into more details on that.
We'll do the Olympics, yeah, for sure, and the IOC. Yeah.
But the important thing here is it was clear from the start of the Olympics that the lack of standardisation of rules worldwide was going to be a problem, particularly in London 1908, where there was big fallouts between the British team and the Americans over some of the rules that the competitions were held under. And then in 1912 in Stockholm, the Swedes, being the Swedes, doing what Swedes do, tried to compromise and get rules which worked for everyone, which ended up working for no one, as compromises often do. So you got variations in events, things like the javelin held with and without run-ups, and completely different events being excluded and included, like two-handed throwing competitions where you throw with one hand and then you throw with the other hand, and your final score is the addition of the two on each other. That existed in some games and not in other games, so it's just no standardisation at all.
And would I be right in assuming that this was also heavily male-dominated at this period?
Oh, I will be coming to that, Mr. Davies. Don't you worry.
Fairly sure that the women didn't get many events.
Many events? Any events?
Well, any, but I mean, even in the World Athletics Championships, which I'm sure we'll come to, didn't start with an equal footing in terms of events being held. But yeah, sorry, I interjected. You were saying...
It's fine. I will mention that shortly, but yes. So rather than allowing the host nations to decide what the rules would be, it was decided that it was important that there was an international body to standardise the rules and to make sure competition was even in every single event. The English were against it, surprisingly, because they believed they were the bastions of the rules. Have we heard that before?
Well, I mean, we still are in cricket.
Yeah, we like to think we are.
No, I know. I'm just joking. Carry on.
And the French, doing what they do, as they love to do, creating international sporting bodies, were obviously in favour. So the idea was proposed in Sweden, and I'm not going to go into the details because it gets very complicated, but essentially the goals in mind were to standardise rules, to be the keeper of all national, Olympic and world records, and to define amateurism as well. So the name given was the International Amateur Athletic Federation, and as I said, to cut a very long story short, after much toing and froing, it was formally completed as an organisation, it became an organisation formally in 1913.
Yeah,
so,
I think, is it from... I mean, you might be about to explain this, but I'm fairly, immediately the decision was made, I think, wasn't it, for your Olympic champion to be considered your world champion?
Yes, and that persisted for a long time.
That lasted forever, until the emergence of what we will be talking about today, the World Championship.
Essentially until the understanding that both organisations could make a lot of money separate from one another, and we'll come to that soon. But more importantly, as you correctly mentioned, athletics at the time, and thus the IAAF when it was founded, was a wholly male affair. A totally separate organisation for female athletes was founded in 1921, which was the Fédération Sportive Féminine Internationale. Apologies for my French pronunciation, as always. The IAAF didn't even allow female members until 1936. It was 1928, though, that the Olympics first held athletics events for women. Only 5 events out of 27 total, so there's 22 for the men, 5 for the women, which was the 100, the 800, the 4x100, the high jump and the discus. But that's essentially me digressing, but it is definitely worth a mention nonetheless. So the organisation founded as the IAAF has had 3 names during its existence. Obviously, the International Amateur Athletic Federation, which it had until 2001, despite at that point not at all being an amateur organisation. As a result of that, it changed its name to the International Association of Athletics Federations, keeping the same acronym, until 2019, and it's now known as World Athletics, which is a lot easier to remember, especially when we're talking about the World Athletics Championships currently.
Yeah.
So it's only had 6 presidents in its 113 years of existence.
And how many of those have not been corrupt? May I ask?
Jury's out for Seb Coe, but 1 maybe. I don't know. The first guy wasn't too bad. So for the first 64 years, they only had 2 presidents. There was Siegfried Edstrom and Lord Burleigh for 34 and 30 years, respectively, which is nuts. Then a man named Adrian Paulen, a Dutchman, had a relatively brief 5 years in the job, but it was very notable 5 years in the job. It was notable for a couple of things. Firstly, starting the process which led to the first World Athletics Championships being held officially. And secondly, his ousting by a successor, a man named Primo Nebbiolo. The final 2 since Nebbiolo's death in 1999 were Lamine Diac and Sebastian Coe, who is the current president. And anyone in England probably, or Britain, probably has heard of Sebastian Coe.
Yeah, he's quite good at running himself, to be fair.
Certainly is, yeah. So Paulen was an experienced official, but he was a bit more visionary, certainly than his predecessors. I mean, his predecessor was a man named Lord Burleigh, which isn't a name you'd necessarily associate with, forward-thinking beliefs. He looked to break the hold that the Olympics held over athletics, and he also saw an opportunity, as I mentioned, to monetize what was a really popular sport, which gave fans another event to enjoy, but in addition, mutually beneficial, would line a few pockets as well. In addition to that, the Olympics had excluded some events, like the 50-kilometre race walk. So the first 2 unofficial World Championships were held in 76 and 80, and they were just the missing events that weren't held at the Olympics. It was held immediately after the Olympics, basically putting these events in, so these would have a world champion.
Wasn't it the men's 50 was the 50-kilometre walk was dropped from the Montreal Games, and that's what prompted the creation of what was effectively a men's 50-kilometre walk world championships.
It was 76 was literally just the 50-kilometre walk. It was just because, as you mentioned, the Olympics were considered the world champion was crowned in those events. So
you didn't have an event.
You didn't have a world champion. So that was the original idea. But they also soon realised that they were able to put these events on, and B, they could potentially start making a lot of money for them, because the 1970s and 1980s saw a ramping up of something new within sport, and that was corporate power and corporate investment. So companies like Coca-Cola and McDonald's finding huge benefit in investing in these events. Another one of the brands in question was Adidas, which was run by a man named Horst Dassler, who's the son of Adi Dassler, who, as you can imagine, was Adidas's founder. So Paulsen, he saw more potential. He saw potential for a highly profitable regular world championship with these sort of sponsors, which were becoming common in sport. But this plan for progress also turned out to be his downfall, because Dassler himself, he wanted more power and influence within the IAAF, and he didn't see Paulen as the man to do it. So Dassler put a plan into action, delaying the IAAF presidential election, buying support for his candidate, which was Primo Nebbiolo, discouraging other candidates from running, and finally convincing Paulen himself to bow out, allowing Nebbiolo to run unopposed in 1981. So Nebbiolo became the president of the IAAF in 1981, and Nebbiolo was a very interesting, shall we say, man, a very controversial man. He changed the way athletics was run in many ways. When the World Athletics Championships begun in 1983, it had already attracted some corporate sponsors, but by 1995 he'd attracted about, I think it had 13 major sponsors attached to it, and was making millions and millions of dollars as a result. He also ushered in the end of amateurism in athletics, already a questionable thing because top athletes were already being paid huge quote-unquote expenses to compete in events by organisers in order to attract crowds. We know how sport works by now. So from 1982, rules began to be eased, allowing full professionalism to become the norm. when athletes competed in the 1997 World Championships, they were paid for the first time for their results. Prior to that, they received some cars and benefits like that, but officially from 97, they were paid. And,
that's interesting. I didn't realise that prize money was such a recent addition. That's very...
It is. I mean, they were paid expenses anyway.
It's very, very rugby. That's very rugby union. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so they dropped the amateur from their name in 2001, as I mentioned. So that was it. So the next thing that Nebbiolo was notable for was Powlin himself had begun to ramp up anti-doping efforts with the beginnings of steroid use in the 1970s.
Here we go.
Nebbiolo had a bit more of a lax attitude towards this, shall we say. Officially, strategies were put in place to test more athletes, but Nebbiolo behind the scenes, he was known for protecting athletes and the spectacle over fairness.
See the Tour de France.
Yeah, I mean, very, very similar in very many ways. There were suspicions of cover-ups, improvements in performance of individuals beyond what should be humanly possible, shall we say.
Yep.
And he was accused of favouring athletes from countries whose support he needed in elections or upcoming IAAF votes, or his own home country of Italy as well. There was a couple of incidents of downright cheating, favouring his countrymen, with a notable event being 1987 World Championships, which were held in Rome, when an Italian, Giovanni Evangelisti, made his final jump. He left the sand looking completely dejected, only for the measurement to hand him the bronze medal. Journalists who observed it basically said, there ain't no way he jumped anywhere near the bronze medal mark, and they quickly wiped away the sand, and officials who were later interviewed basically said, we were told under no circumstances does Evangelisti not get a medal. And many below Nebbiolo fell as a result of this, but somehow he remained largely unscathed through it and was elected soon afterwards to a further term as IAAF president, unopposed, of course. So, yeah, corrupt as hell.
Well,
so
yeah, a theme that shall run throughout, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I can carry on if you like, in terms of, I can take this right through to the modern day, and there's a lot of drugs and stuff involved, unless you wanted to move on to something a bit lighter in the meantime.
Well, let's just give us a snapshot into it, at least. I mean, you can't dangle the corruption carrot and not let us feast on it.
You know I love it, though. You know I love it. So athletics were chasing TV's deals and sponsors. Obviously, they wanted to project a clean image, but secretly they suppressed damaging truths. Another familiar story we've heard many, many times. Nebbiolo, though, he actually died in office in 1999. He had a sudden heart attack while in office. By that point, the IAAF was headquartered in Monaco, in the tax haven of Monaco. His revenue was well over $50 million a year, up from barely $250,000 when he started in the role. So, you know, I guess credit to him for that. He was succeeded, but
yeah, I guess so.
I mean, it's not really what we like sport for, but you know, I guess so.
Yeah.
So he was succeeded by a man named Lamine Diack in the
This
role.
is who we needed to at least give a mention in dispatches to. So sorry, carry on. Yeah, please tell us about Mr. Diack, for God's sake, Mr. Diack.
So it was during his tenure that the biggest doping scandal of our age was coming to light, and one that would find Diack himself at its very heart. So the first signs that something might be amiss with the Russian team began to emerge in around 2008. 7 Russian women athletes, including long-distance runners Tatiana Tomashova and Olga Yegorova, were suspended for manipulating urine samples, receiving 2-year drug bans. Further warnings came out with biological passport discrepancies before the 2012 London Olympics. Another long-distance runner, Inga Abitova, receiving a ban, and the first whispers of whistleblowers as well from within the system were coming to light. After London 2012, multiple Russian long-distance runners received sanctions retrospectively based on tests taken during the event. So the scandal truly exploded in late 2014 with 2 major whistleblowing sources. Firstly, Lilia Shubakova, the London and Chicago Marathon winner, who alleged that she had to pay her own federation $450,000 to bribe her way out of a drug ban ahead of the London Olympics after abnormal blood tests between 2009 and 2011, only to be banned anyway. And it was when she was banned anyway that she then took to whistleblowing, as tends to be the case. Her testimony implicated Valentin Balaknichev, the president of the Russian Athletics Federation, and more importantly, he was IAAF treasurer as well, implicated him in the transaction. Secondly, and one of the most incredible stories in sport I've ever heard in my life, and is one I strongly recommend you go and look into if you've not heard of it, the story of Yulia Rusanova, now Yulia Stepanova, and her husband Vitaly Stepanov. So Yulia was an 800-meter runner of an international standard, although not considered that likely a medal prospect. And Vitaly was an official working through RUSADA, the Russian anti-doping organization. They met, they started dating, they fell in love, not without some difficulty, but that in itself is a really good story. They eventually became whistleblowers. Throughout this period and into their marriage, Yulia was doping, and was doing so with the full awareness and encouragement of major officials in Russia. She was encouraged to freeze urine samples while she was clean to use later, to inform officials of her sample numbers after giving them to ensure they were then later passed. Basically, she gave them the number of the random sample. Obviously, it was all meant to be anonymised, and the officials then go away and make sure she passed the test even when she was dirty. And she made recordings of her coaches as well, passing her banned drugs. At RUSADA, Vitaly was on the inside. The anonymity of failed samples was being lost when officials would contact his office asking for the identity of the failed number samples. These are obviously all meant to be completely anonymous, but his office would be contacted. They would demand the numbers and which athletes they attained to. And then, should the athlete be a medal prospect or a future star or someone deemed of high profile in Russia, the test would mysteriously come back negative. And should the athlete be a nobody or someone on the outside or someone not deemed important enough, the test would still remain as positives. This allowed Russia to basically appear like it was testing and producing positive results, whilst throwing sort of less reputable athletes under the bus in order to protect those who had the best chance of winning medals at these tournaments. And Yulia was right on that cusp. She was right between being a prospect and being fodder in this case. And inevitably and eventually, she found herself on the wrong side of it. She lost her protection and eventually she tested positive. She was told to accept her ban and to just go off and have a kid or something. And Vitaly, at this point, had been moved on from RUSADA, largely for his idealism and for being unwilling to fulfill committing to the fraud. So the two basically arranged through German TV to tell their story. I'm really skimming through this story. There's a lot more to it than that. I would thoroughly recommend looking into it.
Yeah, this is The Build, isn't it? Or whoever they were who broke the...
I think...
They were the first people to break the story.
I think it was ARD.
ARD, was it? Okay, like breaking the story of state-sponsored doping, essentially.
Yeah, some brilliant journalism and really important. But yeah, the two of them were forced to flee Russia, obviously. They've been living in witness protection in the United States since 2014 with their son Robert. They do not have American citizenship, and they live in constant fear of deportation every single day, particularly given the current US regime, as you can imagine, with its links to Russia and with ICE deporting people left, right and centre and everything else. So it is fair to say I would describe the two of them as heroes. Anyway, the fantastically named Dick Pound led reports from WADA, World Anti-Doping Organization, into state-sponsored doping and cover-ups. He recommended that Russia be suspended, and in November 2015, the IAAF voted 22-1 to do so, and Russia was suspended. Something else, though, in November 2015 occurred, which shook the IAAF to its core. Lamine Diack, who had stepped down...
Back to our guy. This is how he fits in. This is how the IAAF fit in.
Yeah. So he'd stepped down as president on August the 9th, Sebastian Coe had defeated Sergei Bubka, who is a legend, to become the new president. The end to Diak's reign had been blighted by some scandal anyway around payments received by him in the 90s, which were deemed to place him in a conflict of interest situation. I will not go into details, but that is an understatement. By November 2015, though, Diac and several other top IAAF officials were arrested in France under allegations he solicited and received Russian money to either delay or bury positive tests, letting dope athletes compete and protecting the apparent integrity of certain events, particularly the 2013 World Championships in Moscow, Russia. So this ramped up before those World Championships. There was payments going back and forth. In 2015, there was leaked correspondence showing that IAAF communications chief Nick Davies discussed delaying the publication of Russian positives until after the World Championships, basically solely in order to protect the PR of Russia, which is a mad situation. And a second WADA report in 2016 laid out bare the money trail, basically how Russian officials and intermediaries had paid nearly €3.5 million to delay sanctions and to sweep positives under the rug, identifying a man named Habib Sisay, who was DIAC's legal advisor, as facilitating delays with and increasing processing time as well. So basically it all came to light. French prosecutors took it all on, and in September 2020, Paris courts convicted Lamine Diac of corruption for accepting bribes to hide Russian positives. He received a prison term, part suspended, and a heavy fine. His son was convicted in absentia as well, receiving a 5-year sentence and a €1 million fine. Former IAAF anti-doping head Gabriel Dole and legal advisor, as I mentioned, Habib Sisay, were also convicted, and judicial confirmation this was that the IAAF under DIAC facilitated and monetized Russian cover-ups during the 2011 to 2014 window, which I think is about as big a scandal as you can possibly imagine in sport, and that is where I'm going to end my story of the IAAF and give you all the background.
We'll do a proper episode on doping, I think, in athletics and or the Olympics, because it is really interesting.
I think Russia in particular, that particular Russian story and the people behind it, and I even mentioned Grigory Rodchenkov in all that.
The guy who is the head of the lab.
Incredible figure.
Yeah. Icarus, if people haven't seen it, we'll tell you a little bit about
do
him.
Watch Icarus.
But now that you've besmirched the entire episode,
I did try and do it at the end,
and reputation.
I did tell you to get something positive in.
No, I'm going to drag us back up from the depths of this doping scandal, but it's probably also worth saying, whilst we're on the doping, it hasn't always just been the Russians. I mean, everyone's been at it. Loads of Americans got done in the Balco scandal. You had East Germany before that in the 80s when the World Championships really came to fruition. There's a lot you can do. You can't really talk athletics and not talk doping. It's like willful blindness if you don't go down that route and at least acknowledge that the sport is tainted. And, well, as we say in the intro, it's enough to make you skeptical, if not cynical. So you definitely need to go into this sport with your eyes open. But that's not to say it's all negative. I mean, the only thing I'd add to your history, to be honest with you, mate, is just the particulars of how it came to be what it is now, before we talk about some cool stuff. You mentioned the first event being Malmo, Sweden, the men's 50. There was another, a second edition in 1980 in Sittard in the Netherlands, which only had it was also very similar to the 76 edition in that it only had a handful of events, mainly ones that didn't have weren't on the Olympic program. In Moscow in 1980, so women's 400 meter hurdles and 3,000 meters, I think. But it was the 83 championship in Helsinki that was the inaugural World Championships as we know it, and it's from there.
Yeah, it's considered the first. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's from there that sort of everything built. And just to pay homage to the women, I think basically from 87 through to 2022, there was a new event added, not in every edition, but in most editions. So, for example, in 87, women's 10,000 meters and 10K walk were added. 93, women's triple jump. 95, women's 3,000 meters, replaced the 5,000 meters. 99, pole vault and hammer. Steeplechase in 2005.
Are these all women's events?
Yeah. They were either changed or added, but effectively,
crazy.
What this all means, and I know you know this, but what this all means is that it was originally a 4-year cycle, and in 91 it switched to a 2-year cycle. So you have a World Championships every 2 years, essentially in order to ensure that there is a major championship 2 years between the Olympic Games.
You either have an Olympics or a World Championships in 3 out of 4 years.
Yes,
essentially.
Yes, exactly. So there's always a big athletics event going on. So what did I want to say about it? I guess.
What did you want to say about it?
I wanted to say that most people associate the Olympic Games with like the really special moment in athletics. And whilst I would say as a general rule that is true, some of the sport's most iconic moments and greatest achievements have come out of the Athletics World Championships. And in fact, I would say arguably the majority of the most iconic sporting achievements in athletics have come out of the World Championships. And I wanted to talk to you about some of them because
Please
they're fun.
do. And
some of them you will remember from our childhood. And I just want your emotional reaction to it, Jack.
I think I know one in particular you're going to talk about from our childhood, but you go on.
Yeah, okay, so look, there's 36 world records that have been set or equalled at the competition. 18 by men, 15 by women, and 3 in the mixed relay. And if you were going to pick a world championship in which to see world records, then I would have strongly recommended, with the benefit of hindsight, that you got yourself to Stuttgart in 1993, where you would have seen 5 world records. Which means it means something to the British at least, because Sally Gunnell broke the women's 400-metre hurdle record there, and Colin Jackson, who was a bit of an icon, broke the men's 110-metre hurdles at that World Championships. Legend. And then the other two were both by the other three, so Anna Biriakova, Anna Biriakova.
You're not going to pronounce any of these names worse than any of the Russian names I tried to pronounce before, so don't worry about it.
She won the women's triple jump anyway, broke the world record 15:09, and then the Americans' men's relay teams 4x1 and 4x400 both broke the record. But whilst there were 5 world records in Stuttgart, it's 2 years earlier where some of the best stories that have ever taken place. And one in particular happened.
It's one of the best sporting moments I think in history, and I'll let you tell it. But I adore this.
Well, I'm going to start
this just because of the history it was based on.
I'm going to start with the 100. I'm going to start with the men's 100 because it's relevant and it leads us in to the second event. So, and also because it's Tokyo this year and 1991 was Tokyo. And I think it's a really great place to start. So Carl Lewis won the men's 100 metres with a time of 9:86, and that was a world record. And at the age of 30 years old, he reclaimed the world record which he had previously held in a field in which 6 men finished in under 10 seconds, which was also a record at the time. So Carl Lewis breaks the men's 100 metres world record and does so, as I say, in circumstances that are just legendary, really, and Carl Lewis is one of the all-time greats. Now, why are you thinking? You're probably thinking, what the hell's the 100 metres got to do with anything? Well, it's because Carl Lewis happened to be in the long jump, because those who know about athletics would know that Carl Lewis was a ridiculously good long jumper as well as a 100-metre runner, which is a bizarre combo, but that's the way it was. And
a 200-metre runner and a 4x100 metre relayist as well.
Yeah. He was a sprinter who also
a lot of
dabbled
gold
with
around
the
his
long
neck.
Yeah, very good, like a global superstar. And
you say he dabbled with the long jump. There's argument you could probably make that long jump was his best competition. He won 4 consecutive Olympic golds in the long jump.
Possibly the greatest long jumper of all time. In fact, what am I saying possibly for? He is the greatest long jumper of all time in terms of competition. He doesn't hold the world record though, because
and why is that, Ben?
Because he was defeated in possibly the greatest competition that's ever been seen in any sport. If you were talking about suspense and
history as well.
Well, history, but I mean, in terms of standard, like the standard of this competition was so high, it's like insane. But yeah, he was up against, I'll put this into context then. He's up against Mike Powell, and Mike Powell was the silver medalist from the long jump in the 88 games. And he was also the top ranked long jumper in 1990. But Lewis had come into that long jump competition having not lost in a decade in the long jump. He had won 65 consecutive meets, which he had competed in. And whilst Powell had been unable to defeat Lewis, he had sometimes put in jumps sort of in the world record territory only to see them ruled as fouls. So really this show was just all about these two dudes. And who was going to come out on top. Was it going to be the guy that just always happens to win, or was it going to be like the pretender who was always challenging him, who had the ability to go further but never quite nailed that jump? And so Powell was jumping first and fouled. So a pretty underwhelming start to this competition.
Yeah, I think he talked about this in the BBC interview, which is good actually, part of the Sporting Witness podcast, which I'd recommend. He said he tried to break the world record with his first jump, and as soon as he hit the board, he realised it was a bad idea because he pushed himself too hard.
And anyone
he's a very fun man, Mike Powell.
Is he? No,
a bit wacky. Yeah.
I've never heard him speak, but I think the thing that's really interesting about that, like whilst it's an underwhelming start to the competition, the relevance of it is anybody who knows anything about long jump is that the key is to get a jump on the board, to just free up the mind, take pressure off yourself. Get a distance on the board, which you can, which is respectable, but not necessarily your best. And then you can ease into the competition, and it ensures that you're not going to get eliminated, or you're not going to put yourself under undue pressure for future jumps, because obviously 3 fouls in the first 3 rounds and you're gone. So get a jump on the board and go from there. But he fouls his first jump. So Lewis comes in, and his first jump was 8.68, which was a world championship record. And a mark only bested by 3 others beside himself ever. So he sets the standard.
A decent marker.
Yeah, Carl Lewis just comes in and he's like, okay, we'll have a look at this, and we're just going to put down a world championship record to your foul. So, Mr. Powell is under pressure. Second jump for Powell, 8.54, claims second place. We're cooking. Yeah. Now we've got our 2 best
decent
guys.
Decent banker,
yeah. Lewis's second jump, pretty unnoteworthy. Similarly, Powell's third. And then Lewis goes and jumps with his third jump, 8.83, wind aided, a mark that would have won all but 2 long jump competitions in history at the time. So
one of which being the 1968 Olympics. And this is probably good context to set up here, that the world record at the time was 8 meters, 90 centimeters by Bob Beamon in the 1968 Olympics. That was in Mexico City. So the air was a bit thinner there. So it is a little bit easy to jump, but nevertheless, incredible jump, incredible athlete. And that was considered one of the hardest world records to beat in athletics. Obviously, it stood for 23 years at this point, and no one had got, people had got close, as you mentioned. There was a couple who got close, but still, pretty daunting target.
It's a benchmark, and Lewis has gone 8.83, so he's still 7 centimeters behind that world record. And going into the second half of the competition, so the start of the second half of the competition was Mike Powell's 4th jump, and it was a huge foul. They think he jumped about 8.80, but obviously it wasn't measured, so he'd have only been 3 centimeters behind Lewis. But it sort of set the tone for what was to come. Yeah, Lewis's next jump is extraordinary. So his 4th jump, he jumped beyond Beamon's record of 8.90, but it was wind aided, so it wasn't allowed to stand as a record, but it would still count for the competition. So it wasn't classified as a world record, even though he jumped 8.91, but it did stand in the competition, because I think
it was the longest jump of all time, but it wasn't the longest legal jump of all time.
That's it. So it is the greatest leap under any conditions ever, is how it was described. Which is, I think it's because you can't punish the athletes for the environmental conditions of the competition, but there are strict rules about what kind of wind assistance you're able to have in order for it to be classified as a record.
Yes.
So, into the next round, penultimate jump for Mike Powell, 5th jump essentially, and it was fucking massive. He jumped.
It's one of my favourite reactions to a jump from any athlete ever as well. But you go.
Yeah, 8.95, not a foul. 0.3 meters per second wind gauge, so within legal limits for a record, a new world record.
Basically no wind.
He'd not only jumped a world record and 4 centimeters further than Lewis, he had eclipsed Beamon, and he had done so at low altitude with no wind assistance. It's an absolute monster of a jump.
And if you watch his reaction to it, you see him. He wants to jump and he wants to bounce all over the place. He has like a moment where he can't hold anything in and he lets it all out, and then he realizes, no, the last thing I want to do is get him, Carl Lewis, wound up over this. So he cools himself down. He says calm down to the crowd and stuff like that. Just calms the situation down. You just see like I can't even imagine what must be going through his mind, how hard his heart must be beating at that moment. 8:95.
I mean, just, an iconic, incredible moment, superseding anything that's gone before. And as you say, it hasn't even got the job done because Lewis has still got two jumps to come. He's jumping in the 5th and the 6th. And let's be serious, Powell's probably not thinking to himself, I'll just go and break the world record again in the 6th. So he's sitting there hoping that the greatest long jumper of all time, who's basically been chasing Beeman's world record for the last decade, is not so pissed off as to be inspired as to jump, having just jumped 891 a few centimetres further and take this even deeper. I mean,
yeah, and a pissed off Carl Lewis was famously not the opponent you want to be up against as well.
Yeah, and
he could find levels.
And if you want an illustration of that, if you want an illustration of that, Lewis then goes and jumps in the 5th, 887, which was a new personal best under legal wind conditions. So whilst it was 4 centimeters shorter than his 4th round jump, it was a PB in the right environmental conditions that are allowed. And then his final jump, he jumped 884. Basically what I'm trying to say is that whilst he didn't catch Powell, and Powell took the gold, took the world record, one of the greatest the greatest long jumping event that's ever been seen. Carl Lewis did not wilt under that pressure. He kept producing insane jumps. And do you want some context to this?
Oh, please, yeah.
The longest jump since that competition is 872.
That's incredible. I actually didn't know that. That's insane.
Yeah, and that world record still stands, obviously.
And is now considered one of the most unassailable world records in all of sport, which, again, just adds to what an achievement it was for Powell.
To beat one of the greats with a world record.
I really like the interview. Yeah, the interview he did with the BBC for that Sporting Witness. He seems a really likeable guy. And he's quite odd almost, quite hyperactive and very expressive.
Yeah.
Interesting guy.
Yeah, I'll have to look him up a bit more about him because I don't know much about him other than, I knew he was a very good long jumper and I knew this story. But yeah, that's fascinating, really. Yeah, so, I love that story because it's probably athletics' greatest competition. I'm not sure there's been
I think so.
I'm not sure there's been a better one-on-one battle.
There's individual achievements, there's obviously, and I'm sure we're going to get to a certain Usain Bolt later in this, in terms of individuals pushing the envelope further and further, and individual achievements in terms of winning multiple golds as well. But in terms of, one-on-one competition, not sure there has been anything.
I don't think there's been anything better than that. I mean, the last Olympic final in the 100 was pretty insane with the photo finish and all the guys running under 10 seconds, but it doesn't have the same standoff, dual nature.
If they all ran between 9.55 and 9.6, that would be comparable, but they didn't in the nicest way. They ran, it's still very quick. I think it was 9.7s, wasn't it? The
fastest 100 in history in terms of aggregated speed.
For sure.
But yeah, you're right. They'd have all basically medalled in nearly every single Olympic final apart from the ones won by Bolt, I think.
Oh yeah, so don't get me wrong, I'm not minimising what an incredible race that was, but
I was there.
But yeah.
Did you know that?
I know you were. Yeah.
I know you know that. I was just trying to throw it in.
And I hate you for it.
Anyway, we're going to stay with the jumps, mate. You know where we're going next. We're going to Gothenburg, 1995.
I know where and who, and this is what I was referring to before, because he's a British hero. And he's a weird old man. But
he is a peculiar chap, yeah.
Yeah, obviously very religious and comes across as strange sometimes. Comes across a bit like a priest, a vicar.
Yes, he is very vicarly. That's
vicarly, yeah.
If that's an adjective.
Didn't he beat the world record twice?
Yes. So he.
Yeah.
I was going to say his religious beliefs are important context to this though, because he is very, very Christian, and so during his athletics career, he actually refused to compete on Sundays initially, and eventually decided or conceded that he would be prepared to in 1993. Which was a very timely decision because the qualifying for that year's World Championships took place on a Sunday, and he went on to those World Championships in '93 and won the bronze medal. So that was sort of not a sliding doors moment, but an important moment in Jonathan Edwards' career. And then 2 years later, he went to Gothenburg, and as you quite rightly have pointed out, he broke the world record twice, becoming the first person ever to jump beyond 18 meters. And his first record lasted 20 minutes, and his second record still stands.
It's incredible, yeah. He doesn't. It's his technique which is incredible. Like, I've heard people who are in the know describe his jumping technique as just the best ever by anyone, because he's not like a big powerful man. He's a technical jumper, but for him to still be a world record holder, even in these modern days of the power athletes have. I know obviously the triple jump's a more technical event than a long jump. Long jump, it's just speed times angle of launch equals distance. Triple jump's obviously more technical, but for it still to stand sort of 30 years later with the amount of advancements in nutrition and training and everything like that since, it's just testament to just how good a technician he is. And very memorable that from my childhood. What were we, about 7 at that point?
Yeah,
probably
very
the first time we were
impressionable.
really watching sport. Yes, indeed.
And it's always on free to air in the UK, so everyone will have seen it. I mean, you want to put, again, I'll give you you say that it still stands, and it's remarkable it still stands. I mean, his first jump was 18.16. That was his first world record. 16 metres beyond 18 metres. 16 centimetres beyond 18 metres. So, a massive jump in the context of the period, given that he was the first person to go over 18 metres. His second jump was 18.29, which is huge. And then only 2 guys have jumped beyond 18.16 since.
Yeah.
And only 7 have gone past 18 metres in history. And nobody
it's incredible.
Caught his 18.29. So, Jonathan Edwards, pay homage. I've got 2 more stories I want to tell you, if you'll indulge me.
Always. What are we here for if it's not our own self-indulgence, Ben? If anyone else happens to be interested, that's fine, but that's very much a secondary concern. Hope you're enjoying it, guys. We certainly are.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. Michael Johnson, peculiar style, currently in the headlines for all the wrong reasons. Yeah, like in the headlines for the wrong reasons currently. He set up a venture for something akin to the Diamond League. It's run into financial difficulty. People aren't being paid. It's all a bit controversial. I'm not sure that it's anything other than bad business, but that's not what I want to talk about him for. The reason I want to talk about him is because Michael Johnson is one of the all-time greats. Peculiar running style.
He was, again, this will be, 96 and 2000, and possibly before that, but that was sort of the end of his career. The first Olympics, obviously, we remember, I would imagine. I'd be impressed if you remember 92, but 96 and 2000. He's just
Atlanta.
He's just so such a unusual running style, such an obvious thing, and then just to be so good at 2 events as well. And there's not that many athletes who can do the 200 and the 400. You tend to get 100-meter runners who are double up as 200-meter runners, like Usain Bolt. You don't tend to get 400-meter runners who double up as 200-meter runners, which of course he did in Atlanta 96, which I'm sure you're about to tell me. Well, and the World Championships, I think you're probably going to tell me about more.
I'm going to tell you the World Championships.
He has incredible records.
You're right about Atlanta 96. He was like the poster boy in the same way that Kathy Freeman was for Sydney in 2000. Ironically, the same event. He wore golden spikes, which is, one of the lasting images from the Atlanta Games. They're really cool. But I was going to mention Seville 1999 because I think it's sort of a testament to Johnson the competitor and Johnson, the GOAT, in that he was plagued by injury going into 1999. He'd had 2 injury scares. He'd been limited to just 4 races before the World Championships. And basically, at the time, were it not for a IAAF policy established only 2 years prior to that allowed automatic entry for the defending champions, he wouldn't have even been going to Seville 1999, because anybody who knows anything about the Americans know that they're utterly ruthless when it comes to their selection policy. And if you don't go to the US trials, then you don't go. And if you go to the US trials and you don't finish in the top 4, you don't go. It doesn't matter who you are. and Johnson missed the US trials due to his injury. So he wouldn't have been going to Seville 1999 if it was left up to the US team. He was only going because he was the defending champion from 1997. But Johnson being Johnson, progressed through the rounds, got stronger and stronger, and then at the age of 31 years and 11 months, broke the world record, which had stood for 17 years. And his splits for that world record were 21.22 for the opening 200 and 21.96 for the closing 200 meters, giving a differential of 0.74 seconds. And that's your point about the difference between the 200 and the 400 meter runners. Like, 400 is a brutal event because it's somewhere between a sprint and middle distance, but everyone sprints it. And when you see people pulling away in the final straight of any race, but particularly in the 400 meters, very exaggerated. When you see people pulling away, it's who is decelerating the slowest, not who is accelerating away from the pack. And so to run two 200 meter splits effectively the same is stupid strength endurance. Like it
power.
Yeah.
Be able to produce that much power for 43 seconds is astonishing, and an incredible testament to a ridiculously good athlete. And to have that power in the first place, which you need to be able to run the 200 meters fast, and then to be able to sustain it for the 400 meters. I don't think there's been an athlete like him in history. I can't think of anyone who does the 200 and 400 nowadays. There might be odd examples, but certainly no one who's competing. 400 meter runners tend to be, that is the only event they do other than the relay. They'll do the 400 and 4x400 relay, and that's it. 200 meter obviously overlaps with the 100 meters because it's just sustaining incredible power for a bit longer. But Johnson's an oddity in that respect, and very memorable from my childhood, and obviously became a pundit as well with BBC Olympic and World Championship coverage since then as well. He's
a bit like Gary Lineker, I guess, from our athletics punditry sort of experience, like there'll be people that only know him as a pundit because he's always on the BBC for major athletics championships. But back in his day, he was the flagship guy for a period of time. Like, he was number one. He was the global superstar. And that sort of transitions us quite nicely to the next guy that we were going to chat about, who you've already preluded, which is Usain. But before we do, because I just want to move on from the World Championships generally onto Usain Bolt in the World Championships. World records continue to be broken at the World Championships, and that's why people should tune in and try and enjoy this World Championship. There's a lot of high-quality athletes going to this, some of whom are chasing world records potentially, including our own Keely Hodgkinson, who may well have a look at the women's 800-meter world record. She'll certainly be going for her first world title, having picked up silvers in the past, but she's the current reigning Olympic champ, and she's going for the world title. But Sydney McLaughlin is also going to be going. She's a women's 400 meter hurdler. She absolutely destroyed her own world record at the last World Championships, became the first woman to run under 51 seconds. And then another person who people might want to look out for is Armand Duplantis, who is the Swedish men's pole vaulter, who basically just breaks the world record for fun. I think he's broken it 7 or 8 times now. And so he's going to be there. Obviously, he holds everything, I think, is probably one of the great global superstars currently. But there's loads of people. I mean, I could list them all. I mean, that are going, like Noah Lyles is going, defending his world title. He's probably not going to go anywhere near the world record because of the man that we want to talk about. Faith Kipyegon. If you want a home favourite, you got Haruka Kitaguchi in the javelin for Japan.
Nice.
Yeah, there's a few people to keep your eye on, but I think are really...
Yeah, I think Duplantis is about the closest we have nowadays to a truly elite dominance force, to the extent that Usain Bolt was, as we're about to discuss. I think the pole vault, obviously Sergei Bubka, who I mentioned before, dominated it, won the first 6 World Championship golds in that. It is an event that there has been dominance in before, but he is currently incredibly dominant and just breaking world records for fun at this point. I'm sure if he wanted to, he could smash his world record, but surely it's much more fun breaking it.
Probably gets more money
every time you have a big event, exactly. Yeah. And the organisers love it, don't they?
Yeah, because there's always a Brucey bonus on offer for every time you break it, so it makes sense to do so incrementally.
Yeah, nowadays world records mean clicks on the website after the fact, more engagement with the whole thing. You know what it's like.
A man who knows something about breaking world records and world championships, though, Usain.
Yeah.
I mean, look, most medals in the World Championships, 14. He's got 11 gold, 2 silver, 1 bronze. Most individual medals, 9, 7 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. Most world records, he's got 4 of those. And basically, it all goes back to 2009 when he destroyed everybody. You remember it, the blue track. It was... Have you ever seen anything like it?
I think it's no, for a start. The blue track, as you mentioned, it's iconic. It's such a... memory seared into my brain. How long ago was it now? 16 years ago.
Yeah, feels like yesterday.
It does, and it was something that you have expectations. Obviously, it gets built up and up and up because this guy has obviously won Olympic gold the year before. There's hype everywhere for him. Obviously, they want the hype because they want everyone's eyes on it. They want all the TV switched on for it, and obviously to sell tickets for the main event. But then for him to deliver, and not just deliver, he'd already broken the world record. To take another 10th off his world record, it's just
958.
God,
958.
This is, as I was talking about Atlanta 96 before the Olympics. Donovan Bailey broke the world record in the 100 meters in that, which was 984, and 984 was exactly the same time, I think, or was it 983 actually? That Ben Johnson ran 8 years before in 1988 Olympics, but later got disqualified because he was, doped up to his tits. But
Ben Johnson also run 983 in the 87 World Championships, which was a world record at the time, and it got rescinded when he because of the aforementioned doping.
Yeah, I
that
think that
about.
Or was it 978 maybe he ran in the Olympic final, or 979 I think he ran in the Olympic final. Yeah, anyway, 979 was then I think Maurice Green's record maybe later.
Mm-hmm.
So that was, and then you're talking these incremental sort of changes, and then all of a sudden you have this guy who runs 969 and then 958.
Yeah,
it's just like nothing we've ever seen before.
It's the largest.
The guy's a physical freak.
It's the largest ever margin of improvement in the 100-meter world record since the advent of electronic timing.
Well, the whole reason that athletes take drugs, and I'm not getting into any sort of debate over Usain Bolt with regards to drugs. I don't really care about it, because the reason we take drugs to get better is to make up for our physical lacks. Basically, it's to bridge that gap between what is possible in a human and what evolution gives us, basically, as a species or as whatever, as an individual. That means that something like steroids makes women have huge advances, because obviously, generally speaking, women have less muscle mass to begin with. So adding steroid, a male testosterone, male hormones, means you get greater muscle mass growth. And obviously, that's why sprinters take testosterone and steroids, or testosterone basically, to improve their muscle mass, so they can spring out the gates faster and get up to top speed quicker. Blah 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 blah. Usain Bolt was just a freak. The guy's 6'6", and his top speed was faster than anyone else in the world. He wasn't even that slow to get up to his top speed. I mean, he was never the quickest. He was never in the lead of 40 meters, but the top speed he was capable of achieving was simply because he's 6'6", and I've never seen a sprinter like him in my life.
Well, that's
and
it.
I don't know if we ever will again.
His world
Not for a long
records
time.
have been attributed to how good his starts were, because of exactly what you said. His starts are not traditionally the best. Not to say they were bad, but like, he wasn't the fastest out the blocks, and so he was sort of compensating all the time for his first 10-15 meters with the rest of his raw power. But in 2009, he just nailed his starts in the 100 and 200. And when you take, as you say, like that differential that it already exists because of the anomaly that he is, and then you add in, an elite start, like a start that's worthy of setting any world record, coupled with his unique ability to run the 80 faster than anybody else, or the 180 is faster than anybody else, then you're going to get freakishly fast times. And like you, I choose to believe it until I don't need to, because the evidence tells me otherwise.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it's still the case. I think it was 8 years or 10 years that samples are retained for, but if he was cheating, and I've got no reason to believe he was, and I don't want to believe he was, if he was cheating, we're out of the window nearly, possibly already, but possibly nearly where he could get caught retrospectively anyway. So
I would have thought some would have
we've just
Armstronged
got
him
to.
by now as well because of how dominant he was. You know, like if somebody knew something that was disadvantaged by his dominance, then they would have probably sold out by now. So
Indeed.
I choose to believe that he saved athletics, not just once, but twice. Again, he beat Gatlin in 2013 and 15 in Moscow in the rain.
There's no doubt about Gatlin.
And Beijing. But yeah, look, his 2009 time, mate, like you said it, he's run, his top speed's faster than anyone's ever ran. He ran at 27.56 miles an hour in that 2009 final, which is the fastest speed a human has ever run at. His 60 meters was...
That's a good boast, isn't it?
Yeah, he's like... I mean, it would put him in like the top 10 fastest animals or something, like mammals, that is. Not fish and birds, obviously, but it's rapid. And then his 60 meters was 6:31, which is the fastest 60 meters ever run. His 200 meter win was the largest margin in World Championship history, even though the race had 3 other athletes running under 19.9 seconds, which is ridiculous. It's the highest number of people to run sub 19.9 for what it's worth. And it was run against a headwind of 0.3 meters per second, which I appreciate, as you said earlier, is effectively no wind. But officially, it was a headwind. Fastest bend, 150 meters ever run. The fastest straight line, 150 ever run, is also Usain Bolt, for what it's worth. But yeah, like just dicked everyone. Finally beaten by Gatlin and Christian Coleman in 2017 in London in the twilight of his career. I saw him pick up that bronze medal, actually, as well. I didn't see him. Yeah. I didn't see the 100. I saw the medal ceremony. But yeah, look, your goat, my goat, everyone's goat, unless they don't know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like his regular appearances and like Soccer Aid and stuff since as well. He's quite an entertaining footballer.
He's an entertaining guy. He's charismatic.
He is, yeah.
He's exciting. He's a showman, and he's absurdly talented, and he's the best to ever do it. And his world records still stand.
He's just like a marketer's dream. Obviously, he's like Nike's absolute Nike wet dream, isn't he? Because he's, as you say, he's such a likable guy, such a performative kind of guy, and so supremely talented and dominant in all eyes of the world. I don't think, I don't actually know this for a fact, but it would surprise me if more eyes have been on a TV for a sporting event outside of maybe a World Cup final than that 2009 100-meter final. Like, I've certainly never felt a buzz like her.
Yeah, it's just every time he ran, man, like every major that he ran in. But I agree with you. Like, I'm not sure, but there's been a single performance that has captured an audience's imagination so globally as that 2009. Well, those 2009 performances, because there were more than one. Yeah, an icon.
Indeed.
One of the...
And we're lucky to see it.
Very. Like, it like breaks my heart a little bit that it's not still going on, you know? It's like one of those things where you have to appreciate it when it happens, like, because it won't last forever.
Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened.
Yeah, that cliche, exactly. But talking of dominance, can I just mention a couple of women before we close?
Of course, yeah. I think I know one of them you're going to mention, but go ahead.
Shirley Ann Fraser-Price?
That was definitely one of them you were going to mention, yeah.
The Pocket Rocket. Most individual medals, 16 in total. She's got 8 individuals, that's 6 gold, 1 silver, 1 bronze. I love this stat. In 2013, she became the first woman to sweep the 100, 200 and 4x100 in the same World Championship. And in 2014, when she won the World Indoor, she became the first person to hold all titles simultaneously, all world titles.
That's so absurd.
Yeah, and then 2 of her individual golds in 2019 and 2017 came after she came back from giving birth to her son. And in 2022, age 35, she became the oldest sprinter ever to become world champion. And there is an absolutely wonderful video of her destroying all the other mums on Sports Day recently.
You love to see it. Went viral for a reason, that did.
Takes it so seriously.
Jogging.
Wins by about 50 metres. It's absolutely hilarious.
I'd love to be the woman who came second. It's like, yeah, I got the silver. It's okay. Shelley Ann got the gold.
Yeah. Have a YouTube of that if you want to smile, because it is very funny. And the other woman I wanted to mention, do you want to have a guess at this one?
Alison Felix.
Yeah, Alison Felix. Yeah, of course it's Alison Felix.
Just too much gold around her neck.
Just the longevity of it. Like, absolutely insane. 20 medals, 14 gold, 3 silver, 3 bronze. Obviously, there's a heap of relays in there, but there's also the women's 200 metres, the women's 400 metres. She's a 3-time world individual champ, 2005, 2007 and 2009. That's the 200 metres. She's a 1-time 400 metre individual champ, 2015. And she's been going to world championships between 2005 and 2022. And she's now recently retired. But she is...
And won a gold in both as well.
Yeah, in the relays, yeah.
I think there was only one world championship between 2005 and 2022 when she didn't win a gold. And I think that was 2013 Moscow.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
She is...
Crazy.
I mean, those two women are like the best that have ever come out of the World Championships for 2 different reasons.
Best of the best of the best, yeah.
Yeah, you got Alison Felix because of her longevity and because of like her gluttonous appetite for medals. And then you got Shelley Ann for like the domination of her events and, you know, the remarkable achievement of going away, starting a family, coming back and still being the best that does it. Yeah, unreal.
And Alison Felix as well won across 100, 200 and 400, albeit in the relay in the 100. Yeah. But it's pretty impressive. As we mentioned, those are very, very different sprinting events. And for her to...
Both those women...
albeit as part of a team.
Are small and slight. They're not like powerhouses or anything. I mean, Alison Felix is very slight. And Shelley Ann, well, she doesn't get her nickname the Pocket Rocket for no reason.
No.
Yeah, like...
And she's tiny. She's 5 foot dead.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if there's anything else to say. Hopefully I've excited people after our doom and gloom introduction to the murky world of sporting governance that particularly afflicts athletics. But
I like to think we find a balance between us, Ben. I like to think I draw the misery out of the world and you stick all the joy back in. So between us, we get the job done.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to love about athletics, even if there's a lot to make you weep. And I think everyone should tune in and enjoy it and just embrace it for what it is, which is, you know...
the best in the world.
The best in the world, taking on the best in the world in the simplest form of sporting endeavour that there is. Who can get from point A to B fastest? Who can throw this thing the furthest? Who can jump the furthest? Who can go the highest? Like, you know, you don't need to learn a suite of rules. You don't need to buy in. You don't even need to watch it with a degree of regularity. You don't have to understand what transfers are going on or what the tactics are. Just turn up and enjoy the fact that people are facing off against one another and whoever crosses the line first is going to be your winner. And it's just drama.
Easy.
It's drama deluxe. Like, there'll be some incredible
Always
races.
Drama.
Do you want to know who the best is at it?
Concentrated in terms of countries?
Yeah.
Well, the USA, obviously.
College system, baby.
A 350 million population and a college system which has a bigger turnover than some small countries. Yeah, that helps.
Yep. They are miles ahead of everyone. It is the Americans. Second place, though, might surprise you.
Will it surprise me? Russia?
Kenya.
China? Kenya, of course.
Yeah.
Oh, because they absolutely mop up. Yeah, this is actually a good point because Kenya, never quite that high in the Olympic tables, but then again, it's concentrated athletics, isn't it? The World Athletics Championships. So middle distance, baby, long distance, baby.
Yeah, they sometimes have, you know, tens of people that run like the A time, and then they're only allowed to take like a team of 4. Like, you could easily have a world final made up of just Kenyans in terms of times run. So they dominate. But you're right about Russia. They actually appear twice because they also appear on the list of Soviet Union. China are in there.
They probably appear 3 times because they probably appear as authorized neutral athletes as well at one point.
I don't think they're in the top 10, but yes, they will be on the medals list somewhere. Other noticeable overachievers, arguably, or I might be doing them a horrible disservice there, but I mean, relative to population ratio and that sort of thing, Jamaica are 4th, distorted sprinting. Probably the last 25 years of utter dominance in sprinting, exactly. Ethiopia.
Yeah, Bolt and Fraser Price.
Ethiopia is 6th.
Yeah.
Again, long distance running. And then Germany 5th, and yours truly 7th, sorry, not 17th. Yours truly 7th, which is not too bad.
I'd have believed either.
Guess who sneaks into the top 10 here? Anomaly.
Yeah. I don't know.
Cuba.
Could be anyone. Cuba. Oh yeah, they Well, what do they
Good at-
like?
good
I
at
imagine
jumping.
Heavy throwing events. Jumping, yeah.
Good at jumping, yeah. Being good at triple jump and long jump in the past. Yeah, you're probably right. They've probably got a few throwers in their time.
Boxing tends to be their sport of choice.
Yeah, they're really
Or,
good in the Olympics at
baseball.
boxing. Yes, also baseball.
Or volleyball, actually, which we never quite got to talk about. They're really good at volleyball.
We will come to our volleyball. We haven't forgotten about it.
No.
106 countries have won medals though, so it's a truly, diverse event in that regard. Tune in.
And you love to see it.
Your team might win, or someone from your country might win, because the spread is wide. But yeah,
Indeed.
That's all I had to say.
Good
mate,
summary.
about athletics.
Impressed. You've sparked my joy again after my cynicism. So well done.
Good. Well, I'm glad. That's the whole point of this podcast. Whilst we want to be informative and educational, we also want people to find the joy and enjoy it as much as we do.
Yeah, because not all sport is to be enjoyed. As I'm about to watch the New York Jets season kickoff, I'll be able to tell you soon.
Yeah, Eurosport, BBC. Those are the places to watch it if you're in Europe. Over here, America, I don't need to tell you where athletics is on. It will be on everywhere. Athletics will be on everywhere for everyone, because that's the nature of it. Where are we going
Indeed.
next week? Have we decided?
Australia. I think we're going next week. We're going to preview the AFL final, so some Aussie rules, which is a sport that I enjoy watching, but I don't know a huge amount about. So be interesting to dive into that, give a bit of a how-to Aussie rules ahead of the final.
Yeah, the grand final. Yeah.
So yeah, the grand final. Yeah,
Awesome.
big event.
Very big event. So in the same way that we did for Gaelic football, any Australians, forgive us.
Nah. I'm not apologising to the Australians. Like, we have good reason to apologise to the Irish. We have no reason to apologise to the Australians.
You're
You will
setting us up
listen
for
and
a
you will
fall.
take it and you will accept what we're going to say as fact, even when we're completely wrong.
You set us up for a gigantic fall, and that's a lovely place to leave it. So, see you next week.
See you next week. Have a good one.
You too, pal.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, then please take just 1 second to drop a like, click subscribe, or leave a rating. It can make a huge difference, but as ever, the best thing possible is to tell your friends about us, or a stranger, or an enemy. We're really not fussy. Our theme tune is Oh Yeah by Harmony Productions. You can find us on Instagram and Blue Sky at The Sporting Almanac, or drop us an email at sportingalmanacpodcast@gmail.com. Next up, we're off to a land down under for Aussie rules and probably antagonising our colonial cousins. Until then, whether you're going for gold or trying not to come dead last, sport is nothing without the history that makes it. Goodbye.